Through Sedap, we also want to highlight Southeast Asian cultures to a global audience, rather than just us Southeast Asians with our little Southeast Asian game. Hi, I'm Jay. I'm one of the co-founders at Forge, and I'm the producer for Sedap.
I'm Toy, and I'm one of the co-founders of Forge, and I'm the lead artist as well. And together, both of us made Sedap as our FYP project.
The idea of Sedap started in university when I was thinking about what to do for my final year project. I knew that I wanted it to be something unique and impactful, and I wanted to base it off the cultures and the food that I grew up eating. Also because you don't really see a lot of Southeast Asia in video games nowadays. Sedap is a cooking combat co-op adventure game where players traverse an island called Kaya Island, a fantastical reimagination of Southeast Asia. So while on the island, players will encounter creatures that are inspired by Southeast Asian mythology and folklore. Their job is basically to travel around the island, search and cook the ingredients, serve delicious Southeast Asian dishes. One of the inspirations for Sedap came when I was playing Stardew Valley with a friend. We were in the dungeons, and what we were doing was we were delegating tasks and working towards a common goal. And I really liked the fun of that co-op kind of game. And I think that idea was integral when it came to conceptualizing Sedap. Another inspiration for the game is Overcooked, which was very popular in Singapore a few years back. Overcooked is a game where you work with your friends to create dishes like soup or hamburgers. Imagine creating chicken rice or mee goreng instead. In 2023, the team went down to KL at a local gaming convention to showcase Sedap. We managed to clinch the Best Student Game Award, and it was a very heartwarming moment for the team as we finally got to see players enjoy the game that we've been tirelessly working on in school.
Growing up, video games and art were my primary two hobbies. And when I found out that concept art was a viable career path, after I bought the Art of Assassin's Creed 3 book when I was 11, I decided that would be my dream job. And I started collecting all of the video game concept art books, like the Borderlands one, the Dragon Age one, and I really was passionate about this. However, my mother told me that I shouldn't consider doing art as a career. So instead of going to Polytechnic, which is what I wanted, I had to go into JC and the IP track. And I took science stream, and H2 art was my contrasting subject. So after A-levels, my mother saw that I was still very passionate about pursuing game art as a career and that I was still practicing almost daily. So she gave me the go-ahead to enroll in NTU ADM and study game art, which is where I met Jay. So Jay and I joined the same band club together in university, and we both thought that one another looked really scary, and we thought we both hated each other. And it was really awkward until we started taking a couple of classes together and we did the same projects, and we found out that we got along and we had quite a lot in common as well.
So I was afraid of Toy because she looked very intimidating and fierce, and I think it's funny that she was afraid of me as well. But when I saw her passion for art, I just knew that I wanted her to work with me on Sedap because I wanted to hit a very high level of polished art for our project. As for Jing Ting, who is our third co-founder and in charge of programming for Sedap, I met her in Polytechnic. She was my senior, so we only crossed paths at school events. And eventually we went into NTU, so we would occasionally bump into each other on campus. And her involvement with the project started when I reached out to her and asked if she knew anybody that could help us with the programming side of things. And to my surprise, she herself volunteered to help us in her free time. And eventually, she actually left her full-time job to join us to create Sedap full-time.
I started working on Sedap from January 2023 onwards, after I graduated from university and prior to finding a job. After some time of working on it, I actually found a job in engineering, and Jay and Toy actually decided to continue working on the game. And I felt like I wanted to support them because I got quite emotionally invested in what we were doing. During this time, I was also thinking a lot about my career and what I wanted to do. So I decided that I wanted to give a career in game development a proper try, as I decided that I would probably be happier here. And so far, I do think that has been the case. When I was young, I played a lot of video games on the computer, and that got me on the computer quite a lot. So I do think without that, I would not have even been interested in becoming a programmer. I have many fond memories of playing video games when I was a child, so it really made me want to create experiences like that for others to enjoy. When it comes to career, I seek a role that I consider fulfilling, passionate, impactful and creative. During my time in university, I actually spent quite a few years feeling quite lost about what I wanted to do. So I actually tried out several different opportunities in different fields of engineering. And even though there were roles that I did enjoy quite a bit, I still felt confused and stressed out and didn't really feel like it was really right for me. But video games still feel like home to me.
So currently I'm working on getting a dish implemented into the game, where at the moment we are working on chicken rice, one of our Singaporean dishes. So in the case of the workflow on how we get a dish into the game, I start by doing some research online to see what ingredients are normally present in the dish. I start doing some concept sketches, and that goes over to Jay for modeling, and then it comes back to me for texturing, and what we do is called hand-painted textures, and that is kind of how we define the art style of the game, wherein it's a very stylized 3D game, everything's hand-painted, and by that I mean I go into Substance Painter and I manually sort of like add every single brushstroke by myself to make sure that the dish looks captivating in some way. Because we want the dish to look like it's still grounded in reality despite being more fantastical and stylistically proportioned.
So I'm currently working on the gameplay feature. Typically, how I go about doing that, first I'll take a look at the documentation for the requirements of the feature. And then sometimes there'll be a bit of back and forth discussion with the designer to make sure that it's being implemented correctly. Afterwards, I'll get some of my team to play test it and check that the implementation is okay. And then sometimes I do game design as well. So typically there's a design problem I'm trying to solve. I will analyze it and then I'll flesh out the solution with some mock-ups and writing out some documentation. Afterwards, I'll review it with the team. So usually we'll play it together or discuss the solution. And then we will ensure that we approve of the idea before we consider it included officially into the game. Because sometimes we need to check whether it does fit with our existing designs.
So that's just about what we do day to day with our respective roles and responsibilities.
I think we definitely have a really unique working relationship because Jay and I started off as friends before we were colleagues. Same goes for me and Jing Ting because it was an FYP before it became like a work project. We try our best to strike a pretty healthy balance between being colleagues and being friends, and generally we're quite like understanding of each other's situations and we're always trying to like be there for each other.
We are pretty chill and honest with one another. After working with Jay and Toy for some time, I've started to get really close and comfortable with them. So sometimes we even play games together for game ideas and inspiration.
I think it's an ideal working environment because there's no such thing as like drama or politics. So what we do to unwind is we actually jam at a nearby studio. So the three of us happen to play instruments and we happen to so-called like the same type of songs. Every month we will go to jam and we also head to the gym to get a good workout. I think for me the biggest challenge would be the financial stability. Being in an indie studio means that we ourselves have to look for our next round of funds and work on the game at the same time. And also I'm not really from like a very well-off family and I really treasure being financially independent. Worrying about the finances month on month is quite stressful for me.
I think for me, the biggest challenge would probably be marketing and trying to build hype for our game because we're releasing a unique IP. And if you're doing something like Call of Duty, then you have a very large, dedicated fan base. But in our case, it's like we're a really small voice trying to get heard in a sea of much, much larger releases. And in the case of publisher rejections, it's a really normal part of working in an indie game company. And it takes a while for you to get used to that.
As a small team, there's a lot of work that we have to cover among the three of us. So we're doing production, development of the whole game, and as well as taking care of marketing for our game. So there's honestly a lot for us to do and timelines are pretty tight. And also time is money. So there's always like a bit of a fear and risk that the longer we take, the more our development cost rises, and we'll try to clear our work as quickly as we can.
We got a lot of support from our parent company, the Iterative Collective, because they allowed us to use their office space, they helped us set up our company and settle all of that admin work. They also incubated us for our first couple of months. And other than that, I really want to thank our university supervisor, Davide, who really pushed us to try our best for this FYP.
The Singapore Games Association, SGGA, and as well as other veterans in the local games industry here, they are very supportive and it's a very close-knit community. They will give us advice, reviewing our pitch deck and getting feedback on how we can pitch better in the industry.
So adding to that, the Southeast Asian indie game community has also been very supportive and excited about Sedap. They've been very welcoming to us and are very approachable, and it's very easy to reach out to them for a second opinion when it comes to game development. I'm also looking forward to overseas game conventions because that's when we get to see everybody and see what they've been working on.
Success for me as a game developer would be to see players really enjoy playing our game and to be big fans of our game. So it's really nice when we see players appreciate all the little efforts and details that we put into our game. And it's really nice to see them want to keep playing our game over and over again.
For me personally, I would define success as me having put out something that has made a mark in the world in some way. And I definitely want our company's name to be more widely known as well, but it's something that I'm really hoping that we get to accomplish someday.
The indie scene here in Singapore is actually composed of really talented people. So yeah, do be sure to check out their games.
So through Sedap, we also want to highlight Southeast Asian cultures to a global audience. Rather than just us Southeast Asians with our little Southeast Asian game, it would be great if people from all over the world can experience the game, whether on PC or console, with their friends and learn more about the food that we grew up with.
If you're interested in Sedap, please wishlist because it helps indie developers a lot. You can follow us on social media if you want development updates or if you want to see the weird things that we post as well.